Hi, this lesson is about vocabulary, or specifically mystery vocabulary that you might not know the meaning of. How to figure out vocabulary by using the context. So this covers terms to know for Module 1. It covers context clues, synonyms, antonyms, and word parts. And this is the only place you're going to find the information about word parts. So the first 3 words are in your introduction from your textbook, and word parts will just be for this presentation, so please go ahead and take notes. The specific word parts we'll be talking about are prefixes, suffixes, and roots. I'm sure you probably remember them from high school studies. So what specifically are context clues? There are several different categories of clues that we can look at to figure out a word. Okay, we're going to look at just surrounding the word that you're unfamiliar with. We're going to look for examples, look for synonyms, look for antonyms. You may need to go out and look at the general sentence, the sentence, or even the passage itself, and the different parts of the word that you're unfamiliar with. So let's begin with examples. Okay, examples are pretty easy, and we know that we're seeing an example when we have a signal word or phrase, like, for example, for instance, such as, including, or even the word like. Here are some specific sentences with examples in them. Perhaps you don't know the meaning of celestial bodies. Not exactly. So here's the sentence. Celestial bodies such as the sun, moon, and stars are governed by predictable laws. So here we have a signal phrase we see in this, such as. So we know that sun, moon, and stars are examples of celestial bodies. So celestial bodies refer to things in space. And here's one with a word that many people aren't familiar with, pedagogical institutions, including high schools, kindergartens, and colleges, require community support to function adequately. Okay, here's including, so we know that high schools, kindergartens, and colleges are all types of pedagogical institutions. So my guess would be that pedagogical means teaching or instruction, places where people receive instruction. Let's take a look at synonyms. Okay, synonyms are words that have the same meaning as the word that you're unfamiliar with. Okay, writers often use the 2 words that have the same meaning in one sentence. Okay, and you'll often find these words following the word and or after a hyphen. Here's one example. Perhaps you don't know the word churlish. The girl was churlish, hyphen, rude, sullen, and absolutely bad-tempered. So these, rude, sullen, bad-tempered, are all synonyms for churlish. Another one, perhaps you're not 100% sure what mortification is. Jackie was filled with mortification or shame at her careless remark. So you see, the writer knows that mortification is a more difficult word, so she or he says or and renames it with a synonym, mortification or shame. So we know that it's the same thing. One last example of synonyms. The Book of Logic contained many conundrums, hyphen, mind exercising puzzles. So conundrum is a mind exercising puzzle. Those are synonyms. Okay. Antonyms, and you can remember this because anti means against. It is the opposite of the word that you're trying to identify or define. So you're going to have to look for clues in those sentences that mean the opposite. However, also but means the same thing as however, as opposed to, and although. Let's look at an example here. Okay, I assumed a rhino would move in a lumbering manner, but it raced across the screen like an attacking army tank. So lumbering, what is lumbering? We know it's saying it's a way of moving, here, a lumbering manner. But, and here's the opposite, racing across the screen or an attacking army tank. Army tank is big, but it can move fast. So the lumbering would mean clumsy or slow or heavily. Let's look at another one. The meeting was held in the main house, but refreshments were served in the annex. Okay, so here's a but. What comes before the but? Main house. So the main house and annex are different things. They're kind of the opposite. So annex is not part of the main house. So if you were looking at a question and you had to choose one of these three answers, an annex could be the kitchen, annex could be the library, or an annex could be the breezeway between the garage and the main house. You would have to say the breezeway, correct? Because it's the only thing that's not a part of the main house. All right. One last one. Although some men are loquacious, others hardly talk at all. So here you can see that after this comma, others hardly talk at all, it's describing something completely the opposite of loquacious. So we know that loquacious means talkative. And another thing you can look at to figure out that mystery word is the general sense of the sentence or passage. Okay? So, my younger sister can be an irritating nuisance when I am doing my homework. So the general sense, you look at here and think about irritating. We know a nuisance that's something that's irritating and something that's going to irritate you when you're trying to concentrate. So we know that a nuisance is just something that bothers you. Let's look at another example of this. The insidious burglar was able to sneak into the house without being seen or heard. Insidious. Okay, that's hard. There's no example, there's no antonym or synonym, but we know if the burglar is insidious, he's able to sneak, and he's able to sneak without being seen or heard. So insidious means sneaky and quiet and something that comes in without being seen or heard. Okay, the other thing we can look at are word parts. Okay, you can analyze the part word. It's another great way, if you know some of these parts of the word, to determine its meaning or its probable meaning. Now, the three basic parts to look at: the prefix, which comes at the beginning of the word, like pre or re or dis or inter. For example, if something is predetermined, it's determined before. We know that pre means before. If a law is reinterpreted, we know that re means again. So it was interpreted again to mean something different than it used to be. If we're looking for a disinterested person to decide a contest or to judge a contest, dis means not. So we have to look for a person who has no vested interest in the outcome, not going to gain anything by the outcome of the contest. And inter means between. And what do you think an interstate highway is? It goes over several states. Example, we can also look at the root. The root's going to come in the middle, okay? And it will often change a little, be adjusted by prefixes or the suffixes that are added to it. For example, we have script. Script actually means written, like prescription or description. It means something that is written. Psycho, like the study of a mind, the mind. So you know psychology. If you know the suffix ology, it's the study of the mind, psychology. Or psychotropic drugs. It's some kind of drug that affects the mind. Hypno, and I had to look this up, hypno means to sleep. So if you're listening to hypnotic music, or it's a good idea to listen to hypnotic music as you're trying to fall asleep at night, it puts you into a state of kind of quasi-sleep. Now, suffixes are endings that you put on the word, and it gives you some idea of the meaning, but it really determines what tense a verb is or what part of speech it is. Like ed is going to put you in past verb, past participle of a verb. I recently received a letter, so I received it in the past. Ness means a state or condition, like happiness or loneliness, a state or condition of being happy or lonely. And ly most often means that you have an adverb. The recently received letter, recently means it's telling you when something was received. So even if it's a strange word, that's probably an adverb. It's telling about how something is done. Okay, you do have to be careful when you're looking at word meanings, because if you're reading really fast, you can run over a word and get a wrong sense of it, because really, really simple words that everybody knows can sometimes mean, 5, 6, 7 different things. For example, how about a run? That can be a verb. She likes to run. That can be a run in your stocking. That can be he hit a home run. That can be the paint was running down the side of the picture. It can mean a lot of different things. So stop and slow down and make sure you really understand what those simple words are referring to. Point. That could be a noun of making a point. It could be the point of scissors. It could be the act of pointing something out. Maybe circle is the same way. That can be a noun. That can be a verb. Circle the wagons to protect the women and children. It can mean so many things. So be very careful when you're looking at your passages or even just sentences. Make sure you know what the simple words mean by their context. But context clues do have limits, and here's an example. The media reported the employees refused to do the stultifying work. What in the world is stultifying? It refers to work. It's talking about what kind of work it is. And we can see that it's probably negative because the employees are refusing to do that kind of work, but we're still not really sure what it means, even with all the context clues that we have around there. Let's add another sentence that may be after that in an article. One employee exclaimed, "Leave the stultifying work to the minions." Well, now there's another word, minions. What if we don't even know what minions mean? Well, we do know that they have minions are people who help their underlings, their lower level workers maybe. There are lots of them. So we can still see that that kind of work being best left to minions is negative. It still doesn't really tell us what stultifying means. So let's look one more. The media, let's see. The employee refused to stare at a conveyor belt all day counting boxes of cereal. He would rather engage in less stultifying work. So now we have an example of what kind of work is stultifying. So we have to think about how would I feel if I had to do that kind of work all day, just counting boxes of cereal. I would feel bored. I would feel kind of stupid. I might feel a little bit embarrassed. It might be very mind numbing. And these are all what stultifying work is. That's what stultifying means. All right. So that brings us to the end of vocabulary. And now it is time to complete the 2 activities that follow this lesson in the Blackboard folder there about vocabulary. And thank you very much for listening to the end as always. I appreciate it. Good luck on your activities.